Hello and welcome to the Framed podcast. We are on episode 24 now. We're almost at the 26th half a year episode. But this episode, for our final episode of 2025, we have a very special guest. Today we are joined by composer and director Trevor Morris, whose work spans film and television. And most recently, what we're going to be discussing on this episode is the short film Butterfly on a Wheel, which has just been shortlisted for an Academy Award. So we're going to be doing a dive into Trevor, going to be diving into the film, what we thought about the film. And yeah, if you are watching this and you are not aware of this film, this is something that everybody needs to be aware of. This is something that will hit you. Me and Charlie have seen this film now, and I've seen it twice, and brilliant. So we're going to dive into that in a second, but we're going to do a little bit of an intro with our special guest, Trevor Morris. So, firstly, Trevor, how are you?
I'm well,
to the
thanks.
podcast.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
We're ecstatic to have you on. You're our first proper big guest on this podcast, which is huge. I've obviously done an interview with yourself previously, which has gone onto our page. But what we need to do, we need to break the ice a little bit. So, Trevor, what is your favorite film of all time?
Star Wars. I'm a Star Wars kid. You know, it was the movie, and I know I'm not alone here, that made me realize movies could do that, in quotations. You know, I mean, like, I'm sure Lawrence of Arabia, which is before my time, would have done that had you been that age when it came out, in the, whatever. But Star Wars was the movie that opened my imagination to what movies could do. At the time, musically, didn't know how much of an impact it would have on me. And if you ask any composer around my age, they're probably going to say they've been chasing Star Wars their whole life. But it was the movie that just narratively and characters, and of course the world building, it was just like nothing we had ever seen before. And has gone on to be part of, certain movies are kind of part of who you are, like everyone has them. And for me, it starts going to the theater, actually sitting in a 70 millimeter projection of Star Wars. Yeah, without a doubt.
Absolutely. And following on from that, would you say Star Wars is the film that sort of drove you into your line of work now? Would you say that was the film that really got you into cinema and film and composing?
Yeah, I would say so. Those are formative years, so we're talking about the Star Wars, the original trilogy, of course, 4, 5, 6. And then in there, Indiana Jones showed up, and, into that era of filmmaking, and I could go on and on and on about that. But yeah, they sort of formed my tastes and my sensibility and the kind of movies that I just fell in love with movies. I think is one of our greatest art forms, because it encompasses a whole bunch of art forms all rolled up together. And it certainly set me on the path for wanting to become a composer. Going, I want to be part of that universe, even though I didn't know it. I was a kid, you know what I mean? But you sort of know when you're looking back that it kind of sunk its claws into you, and I never let go.
No, absolutely. I as film podcasters and as people that talk about film reviews, me and Charlie can relate. It's a very special thing, cinema. I'd say it's sort of on the similar lines. I can imagine what you're going to say, but what was your favorite film score of all time? Is it Star Wars, or are we looking at something different?
Film score would probably be again Star Wars, but The Empire Strikes Back. The Empire Strikes Back. I was just actually, to be honest, a guilty admission when I say Star Wars. Although I did see Star Wars, 4. I really mean The Empire Strikes Back. It's I can hum half the melodies. Not even the big ones, like not even Darth Vader's theme. I'm talking, the asteroid field, cue with Millennium Falcon and that kind of stuff. So it just blew my mind, and well, I mean, there's John, as we know, there's John Williams and there's everybody else. So, that was him at his prime, swinging for the fence. So it still comes up on my yearly listen list and just boggles the mind a little bit.
Amazing film score. Well, thank you for that. We've got a little bit to know you a bit more. What we're here for is Butterfly on a Wheel. So before we get into it, so for anyone that hasn't seen or heard of Butterfly on a Wheel, so it's set against the backdrop of Toronto's vibrant and urban landscape. We follow Jason Davies as a gifted young musician. He's struggling to keep up with his daily life, with his OCD and anxiety. He studies jazz at the Royal Conservatory of Music, and he hopes to one day conquer his fears and perform to a live audience. But while playing one afternoon, a chance encounter with a fellow student sets in motion a transformative journey that will shape his perception of the world around him. And with the support of his brother Dylan, he hopes to rediscover his most authentic self. Now, me and Charlie have seen this film. I saw it, of course, when I interviewed you a while back, but Charlie watched it recently. Charlie, what did you think of Butterfly on a Wheel?
Yeah, firstly, I just want to say thank you for sharing this with us and letting us be able to watch it.
Absolutely.
It's an incredible piece of work, and
Thank you.
yeah, it was really, really beautiful to watch. I'm so glad that I've had the opportunity to watch it.
Thank you.
What resonated with me the most was the anxiety and OCD aspect of it. It's something that I've personally struggled with. So seeing that actually depicted for the first time in something was great to see. You watch all these different films, and even films like Star Wars, and you have characters that are they're almost perfect. They just live out these perfect lives. They're very perfect versions of people. You never see their sort of daily struggles, what goes into their daily lives. And it was just even the simple scenes of like rearranging things in the fridge and stuff. That's things I did in younger years. You just pick them up and move them around, make sure everything's perfect in your head. It's all got to be right. Just seeing those small nuances picked up is the main thing that resonated with me. But of course, Jason's story throughout the whole film is, of course, the key core moving force of the whole story. And it's just fantastic. And the cast is great, and the music composed for it by yourself is phenomenal as well.
Yeah, I lucked out on the cast for sure. Well, I appreciate you saying that, because I find that, not so much that movies depict people as perfect, that I'm cool with that, but it just, you can't see yourselves in those people. Whereas Jason, and by the way, you don't have to have OCD to see yourself, I hope, to see yourself in Jason. He's just a guy just trying to get through the day. You know what I mean? He's just trying to just get past whatever his thing is, and just get past his fears and anxieties, and try to just literally get to school without losing it. And I think that's something we all have in our own way, a version of that. I certainly do. He's a lot of Jason. There's a lot of me in him. And to the OCD thing, it's funny when it's portrayed in movies. Strangely, it's depicted in a lot of comedies, like As Good as It Gets with Jack Nicholson and Monk TV show. And it's interesting. It is kind of funny when it's portrayed as funny and lighthearted. But we went to great lengths, at least I felt we did, to make sure we depicted it on screen as real as we could. Not sensationalized, not debilitating, because people have debilitating OCD, but more just the brand of, fuck, man, I'm just trying to get through the day, to get to school, and I think that's more human, that's more everyday man relatable. And that's, we had a consultant we hired named Josh from Toronto, who was our guiding light, who was my target audience, that he would watch the movie and go, yeah, that's kind of what that's like, and he gave us the thumbs up at the end of the movie. So we feel good about that. The actor took it very seriously. I took it very seriously. And our actor has some OCD, so it wasn't that much of a stretch, but we went to great lengths to make sure that we showed that with care, and with reality, again, without sensationalizing it. Although, there are 6 or 7 forms of OCD. They can get very, very serious. The one that we focus on, that I have, is symmetry and counting, which is, counting the things in the fridge and, stuff like that.
I think it's really important that, especially now, we're seeing more things and more films and more TV shows that are showcasing these conditions in so many different ways. Like you said, Monk is one of my favorite TV shows of all time. I think it's such a brilliant TV show. And then you've got a film called I Swear this year, which is all about Tourette's and how he manages that. And I feel like seeing these films and short films and TV series is such an important thing. So to get this showcased out in the aspect of music, I think is brilliant. And like Charlie said, I think it's such an amazing project, and the fact that we've been able to see this and talk about this is just so important. But it's such an amazing and valuable experience that we'll definitely cherish. But what's really great, and what I really want to talk about, and why we've got you on here, is because this brilliant short film has been shortlisted for an Academy Award.
Mm-hmm.
Firstly, how are you feeling right now about this shortlisting?
Oh, it's incredible. It's funny. No one makes something for awards, of course, but it's my directorial debut. I made a very decisive move from composing to directing, which is not common. I think there's a few of us out there, composer, director types, but the most important thing is hearing what you guys have to say and how it resonated with you and how it got into your soul and things like that. That's what it's really about. And the to be recognized for the Oscars is incredible. On a pragmatic level, as a director, it's very useful, to help you push forward into a directing career. But to be recognized, I think is put it this way: a director without great actors or great cinematography or great music is just someone with an imagination. It really takes the embodiment of these ideas through our lead actors. His courageous performance is what's resonating with people, so we're all pretty proud of that. The recognition is amazing, and I do sincerely hope we make it from the 15 to the final 5. And the reason is to try to get the film out wider and get the message out, because that's really what the most cherished part of the journey for me has been screening it with people. I didn't get a chance to watch it with you guys, but I've seen it in movie theaters with 6 or 8 different audiences, and to have people who've never met me and probably will never meet me again come up to me and say, just say, thank you. I see myself in that character, or I see my son in that character, or, even though I'm not a musician, I resonate with this journey. And, there's a lot of short films tend to, and this is by no way criticism of any kind, tend to be very about difficult subject matter or strife or famine or war or just difficult human conditions. Totally get it. Mine is too, in a way, but I also wanted to leave with, the hope was to leave the audience with this sense of, not that everything's perfect and there's a nice bow on it and everything's going to be great, but that there's this possibility, that he may just be able to do the things he wants to do, live his life the way that he did the work. He did a healing journey. We show it very quickly on film because it's a short movie. Left with the possibility that that life can be better. So there is a bit of an uplift. And the actors stuck the landing, didn't they?
Oh, absolutely.
So she cried on set, and the entire crew cried. We're talking the hardened camera crew, the guys with the gaffer tape, and they cried. So we're like, all right, we're onto something here.
I mean, I cried. I mean, it's phenomenal. I remember talking to you when we obviously had our discussion a while back, and we were talking about, hopefully this does get the recognition it deserves. And I'm glad it's getting there. It's getting the recognition it really, really deserves. But when you found out you were shortlisted, and you were given that information, sort of, what was that moment like for you? Like, what were you like with your family? Was it big, or was it just nice and concise? What was that moment like for you?
I mean, I won't lie. I was pacing around the room for the week leading up to it, because, we went, just to put it in perspective, I voted on the Oscars for a while, and I never thought of the shortlist as big a deal as it is. Certainly I do now. But, there were some 3,500 short films made last year, all vying for positions in film festivals. That's how I know the metric. Mm-hmm. Of those 3,500-ish, 207 made it to Oscar qualified. The 207 became the shortlist that I made it, not just 15. So it's pretty incredible metrics to make it, even to have made it this far. Absolutely. But yeah, I was pretty nervous. I'm not gonna lie, and I'm still nervous about the next round. But I mean, I guess you wouldn't be human if you weren't. But what I actually did is, and I haven't told anybody this, you're the first guys to know this, I actually turned my phone off, and because they don't announce the time, strangely, when they're going to announce that. We knew the day. Yeah. And they said around noon. Buggers, make us wait. So I actually went to my studio and I turned my phone off. I figured you know, everyone's going to find, if I got it, if I made the short list, everyone's going to find me. Someone will find me somehow, some way. Rather than hitting refresh on the screen, I couldn't do it. My OCD and anxiety was going through the roof.
Yeah.
So I actually just turned my phone off and I started to sat quietly, listen to music and tried to distract myself. And then turned my phone on, and of course it blew up, and it was an amazing moment. And you know, the messages come from my producers and my actors and everyone else who shared in the journey. You know, so I'm happy for all. Yeah.
No, that's amazing. That's yeah. When you went this recognition for this film, has it sort of changed the way you view this project at all, or have you sort of, do you see it in the same light? Does it sort of change the way?
Yeah, good question. I mean, a bit both. You know, it's validating for me. I would try to, all human beings try to not lean on external validation, but it's hard not to, especially when you're making something artful that you show to people and then they either like or they don't like. You know, I have this experience in composing, so I'm a little thick-skinned, but still, the fact that it's resonating and people are seeing it and it's being recognized does mean the world to me. You know, especially as a first-time filmmaker, it does validate that, okay, maybe my instincts are pretty good. You know, and the other thing about short films is they tend to be done very, by nature, inexpensively and quickly. And, you know, but they're people are trying to get a film that they have no money or no budget. You know, I had the fortunate position of having been in the movie business for a long time that I wanted to shoot it like a movie, like a film. And so the look of it, the cinematography, certainly the way I approached the music was all the way in the same ethos as the movies I scored or the sort of projects that I've worked on. And that's what I was going for. In terms of the look of it, in terms of the sound of it, we went to Abbey Road to record the score. So I really went in the way that I know, you know, in the way that I've known in my music career. And it speaks to sort of how I think and how I feel and how I view the world. So the recognition of that and people saying how beautiful the cinematography was and how much they love the music and all of it, you know, feels really great. How can it not, you know?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's the recognition. Like we said, it's the best thing that's come for it. And you know, like you said, it's not all about the recognition, but having the recognition to go out there and showcase this film more is what's really important. And I hope people do come and see this film because it's just phenomenal. So I want to sort of ask more about the film specifically. So obviously you're a composer previously and for this film as well. So what was like the score sort of method for this film? How did you come about writing this score?
So it's interesting when I became a screenwriter. So I became a screenwriter because COVID, we had a big strike and just Hollywood's upside down. I wrote an entire screenplay, animated film because I have kids, like a Pixar type movie. And I fell in love with writing screenplays. And then Butterfly came after that. But what I found interesting is, and this is unique to me, is as I'm writing the scene, the music starts to creep in the other side of my brain, which makes writing difficult, right? Because I'm like trying to write the words, the English, the dialogue, and then the music's also coming in at the same time. But for me, the cue that I wrote that I kind of knew what it was going to be was the healing montage when he says to his brother, I have to go away for a while. And we had this beautiful montage of him going to the deserts where it's depicted. That cue, which is this, you know, just this little 4-note piano motif, this little river that grows and grows into a fairly grand orchestral gesture by the end. I mean, we're showing vistas of clouds and mountains. You know, it's the connection between small, personal, alone by a fire, and our connection to the universe and him talking to the audience, but talking in that omniscient way that the cue would get grand and it would get big and it would swell to the point and then come back down to personal. That was the cue. That 2-minute cue was the hardest getting it right cue in the movie, but the one that I enjoyed writing the most. And then everything kind of pulled from that. You know, that was kind of the genesis of where the score came from. And I knew I wanted to write a little song for the end, a little song for a short movie. And it ended up becoming his theme, which I didn't see coming. Even as all the years I've been doing this, it's still amazing how I believe in thematic music writing, and I believe in just throwing themes at it, and eventually something is going to the image will accept it. Is the way I think of it, and it goes, oh, that I like that, And the movie tells you what that is. So when he takes a bow to that silent audience, when he finally plays his Debussy, which he wants to desperately play for people, but can't bring himself to do it, he takes a silent bow, which reminds him of his childhood and his grandmother. That cue is the song reduced into or extracted into a score. And I didn't know that until I wrote it. So even those mysteries still unfold, even for me, even after all these years. But, you know, there was no notes. There was no one to approve it, which is, and it's strangely another level of stress. Another level of, you know, making sure I got it right, because, you know, there's no one but me. So that was interesting and delightful.
Yeah, of course. I'm asking all the questions. I mean, I don't know if Charlie, you got anything you wanna ask about the sort of score or the film process at all.
Yeah, I mean, I think you touched on it at the beginning about how there was a lot of yourself in Jason with the anxiety and OCD aspects. Is there anything else of yourself other than, I guess, the music side of things that is yourself within Jason?
Yeah, I'll answer the question in a different way, which is where the movie came from or how the movie came about. I was in a very difficult place in my life. It was COVID year, end of year one of COVID. And COVID was hard for everybody, don't get me wrong, but it really took me down. Like, I was on my knees for like a year. It was a really bad time in my life. And when I was pulling myself out of it, that I was working with my therapist, who I deeply respect, he said, okay, think of it this way. What's your earliest good memory? Like you right now, life is shit, and you can't see, you're upside down, and all that things that happen when you go into a deep depression. And my first memory that I thought of that was warm and loving and real was sitting in my grandmother's lap, and she would play Puff the Magic Dragon on piano for me. So that moment from the movie is truly autobiographical. That is a core memory of my life. And out of that was the genesis of the movie, which is really my healing journey, pulling myself out of my place, as a parallel to writing the story of Jason and his, you know, anxiety and all that kind of stuff. So the genesis came from that, you know, from the grandmother. It's really an ode to my grandmother, who was, you know, my first memory of music was her. And that's kind of where it started. And then, you know, it's funny, what I always say, and I'd like to have the opportunity to say here, is the movie on paper is about a kid with anxiety and OCD, right? Which is true. What it's really about for me, and the reason I think it resonates, is it's a story about someone trying to find their authentic voice in the world and believe that it's worthy of being heard. You know what I mean? He just really wants to be himself. And that's what's so great about the actress who played Sorrel. Is the reason I cast her is I wanted someone who was so authentic and bubbly and alive and just lives her life the way he wishes he could. Yeah, that's what he sees in her, other than she's beautiful, is look at this girl. She's just out there, unafraid, you know? And Jason sort of aspires to live his life that way. So that kind of thing, where I often say, if there is one universal human condition that we all share, is the desire to be seen for who we really are. And I think we all want that. And not all of us are, or do, or can, or, you know, or we get in our own way. Human beings are really good at that. No idea why. Getting in our own way. But that's what I think is below the surface in the movie that resonates, is Jason's really just looking to discover himself and realize that who he is good enough and worthy of sharing with the world and whatever. You know, everyone else who watches it resonates with. They probably have their own, I know I do, version of that of themselves. And so that's the part that I'm most proud of, is I feel that when people watch it, again, what if they're not musicians or don't have OCD? Why does it still resonate? Because it's not only about that, it's about other things.
No, absolutely. Sorry, you go, Charlie. Go on.
Yeah, obviously, I think that's what I'm trying to thought. I got locked up into your answer. Obviously, previously worked as a composer, moving into directing. Obviously, Craig touched on your composing method earlier, but is there anything from your previous composing methods or this composing method that allows you to approach directing in perhaps your own unique way, or helped you with that, or did this come completely?
No, absolutely. I mean, you know, directing is hard. And the hardest part, without a doubt, was being on set, where, you know, composing is a solitary act, right? and all of a sudden you're on set and you yell cut and everyone looks at you to have the answer to whatever questions in their mind. So that was very difficult. But what I found easier than I was expecting was working with actors, which is the scary part, right? Actors are weird and, all that stuff, building trust with them. But on the day, realizing that I've been directing musicians, solo musicians for 20 years, and if you think of it, here's my analogy. You take a piece of music, air in the G string, right? And you put it in front of a cellist, you get one performance. You put it in front of a different cellist, you get a different performance. The notes are the same, right? It's like that with actors. You give them the dialogue and you put it in front of different actors, you get different things. So shaping an actor's performance very much reminded me of shaping a musician's performance. So I didn't know it until the moment, which is really weird. As in real time it's happening, I go, oh, that's what this is like. It's like telling a musician to play with more pathos or more joy or whimsy, words like this. Working with actors, I really brought that musical experience to the day with me. And it was very useful and very helpful. So I think that's part of what stepping into the director's chair at this point in my life was the right thing at the right time. And even though the machinery of making movies is completely foreign to me, it's like drinking from the fire hose for sure. I brought with me the sense of musical instinct, that I trust my instincts. And that's what really helped get the actors. They did most of it on their own, but to get it, we're all aiming at the same thing. And that worked out great for me. So that definitely translated from, I took with me from music to directing.
Absolutely. Obviously, one of the most important things about this film is its portrayal of OCD and anxiety, mental health. You touched on it earlier, but when the process for the actors came about and getting the script, what was it like for them to sort of, especially for Jason, about how he tackled that OCD? I know you mentioned that he has some sort of slight OCD, but what was that like for him putting that into this film?
It was interesting because part of the process with directors and actors is gaining trust enough for them to slowly show you what they're going to do. He never really, Curran, the actor, never really showed me what he was going to do until we got till the day. So I was sort of hoping, man, that it was going to work out. But we did have the consultant. We talked about, what things look like. And a lot of what you see on screen was the actor. 90% of it is him. And just us discussing things, like the rearranging things in the fridge is something that I do, so that's how it ended up in the script. But there's a lot of him just doing things and, him adjusting the painting is very much me. So I'm in there, of course. But it was really just a lot of deep discussion and then let it go and let it flow as naturally as possible. But he has his own, I'm not going to speak for him, but he has his own brand of things that he has to go back to the house to make sure certain light switches are off and, that kind of thing. So it was a nice happy accident that I loved him as an actor and he had this in his back pocket, which was great, so it ended up working out great. And again, I think what we portrayed on screen, again, Josh, our consultant, was very happy with it too. Was something that is relatable, not so crazy that you can't relate, but taken seriously, or at least depicted with reality. So we've tried very hard to make that as authentic as we could.
Yeah, and I think that's definitely shown. I mean, obviously we're not directors, we're not writers, but I think when you look at, especially a short film, to get everything like you do in Butterfly on a Wheel, to have these messages translated and shown is extremely difficult compared to like a feature-length film. And what was like for you to ensure that the messages were in there? Was anything that you felt had to be in there, or did you feel like anything needed to be cut? Like, what was that like, putting all of that into the short film?
Yeah, the reason my short film is longer than most short films, I would say, fall between 18 and 25 minutes, something like that, right? I'm 33 minutes. The reason is, and Christopher Nolan, my filmmaking hero, said that to write a short film with a beginning, a middle, and an end is more difficult than it is in a feature, which I totally agree with. And I think that narratively, we all, as audience members, whether we know it or not, enjoy, set up conflict resolution or beginning, middle, and end. And it was important to me that we had that journey, and we have it. We start in one place, something changes, meeting the girl, and then he's on the date, and we're rooting for him, man. Like it's happening. He's getting past himself. He opened the door with one turn of the doorknob, and it's like we're kind of just it's going well, And then of course it all falls apart. He gets in his own way, and he hits a rock bottom, and from that, out of hell into light, as they say. And we get the ending of the movie. So that was a big challenge for me in structuring on the page and how long it was going to be. And everyone said, don't make a 40-minute short. No one wants to watch. That's half a feature. But I just couldn't do it in 24 minutes. I couldn't. And I didn't want to. And it got me cut out of a lot of film festivals that wouldn't take me. They're like, you're too long for us. We're trying to pack in. It's a business, right? They're trying to pack in shorts back to back to back to back. They go anything over whatever the length is, we just don't take across the board. So it hurt me in the film festival world, but I stand behind the length because I think I needed it to show, to show the beginning, to show the middle, and to feel the resolution at the end that we all feel. Takes time, So I stand behind it. I think it was the right call. And, everyone who watches it, I don't know how about you guys felt about it. No one ever said it feels long. It seems to sort of flow by pretty quickly, and was paced well, I hope. And but it was a decisive thing for me to make a longer than half an hour short, for sure.
Yeah, I think the pacing works fine. I think I don't think it should have been any shorter. I feel like the story all fits, I think, perfectly, because you do get that middle, the start and the end, and it does tell it in such a brilliant and perfect way. I don't know if you have any more thoughts, Charlie, about that.
I mean, I think in yourself, if you know that you can take that story to the max, go beyond that 30-minute cap, I think you've got a solid foundation there to build upon. If there's the ability to explore it further beyond that initial bracket, take it further beyond that 25-minute mark that people go for, that there's a story worth telling there, because there's so much you can speak about it and put on the screen. I think if you're able to take it to that extreme, you've got something very tangible to work with, and it definitely shows, because as you said, it is paced perfectly well. Everything gets its moment to be explored and displayed, and the resolution at the end is just fantastic. And as Craig said, it had me tearing up as well.
No, thank you. I think there's a again, I qualify my remarks as not saying better or worse, but I do think different approach to shorts, which is when you think of making a short, I'm going to make a short. Okay, which means I'm going to grab a camera and tell a story in 18 minutes. I want to make a movie, a film that happened to be 30 minutes long. So narratively, visually, stylistically, story-wise, I was making a movie. And the journey of any great movie has a beginning, middle, and an end. And so it was important to me that it does feel to me like a little movie, a little mini ride, and again, not all shorts do. As a matter of fact, few shorts do, and that's okay. But for me, that's just how I view narrative, and it was always designed that way. And I don't think I could have stuck the landing if I hadn't, with narratively with the actors, certainly, without having gone through the journeys that we did with all the characters. Even the brother, man, it's super important, because the brother is like this guy, the only guy who can poke fun at him at his lowest point. He like calls him Rain Man, and cracks a joke because he knows him so well. But that actor told me that who was really hot when we cast him. He was in Kevin Costner's movies. He's now on a hit TV show. He was way above my pay grade in terms of casting, but the reason he took the role was the speech, in quotations, or talk he has with Jason before the concert, where he says, "Listen, man, life came easier to me than it did for you, but your struggle is what makes you you." That's such a pivotal moment in the movie for him to be recognized by his brother in a way that, and it tells the story of the movie through the point of view of the brother, who up to that point it's been kind of just the jock, and it could seem almost like a thin character, and all of a sudden this moment happens and you're like, okay, wow, so that was a really enjoyable moment in the movie for the actor. And he has a younger brother that he takes care of, and that kind of stuff. So again, just lucky in casting, and great actors help a lot for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that's that scene that you just said with both of the brothers. I think that was a really really important scene because, like you said, you've got this jock character that some may perceive as he's a jock. He doesn't care about all of that stuff. But the conversation that they have, I feel like it's very raw. It's very emotional. It's very just grounded with them, and that's what really connected with me was just the fact that the people that are around you that can give you these messages and give you that support. That's what I feel like resonated with me a lot. I find myself not seeking, but the people that are around you are the ones that really big you up, and I feel like that scene was a really, really hard hitter for me. What I want to speak about as well is obviously this is a phenomenal film with audience like myself and Charlie, and you've shown it to 7 or 8 screens now. What I want to know is what was it like showing this to your family? What were their opinions and views on this film?
They've seen it in various iterations along the way, and it was tough, man. And at one point, the middle didn't work at all. And my daughter, who's 16, 15 at the time, was like very honest and said, "I don't get that," or "What happens?" And the big question we always got is, where does he go on this healing journey? Because that's a part of my healing journey. I went away, kind of thing. And originally, as scripted, it was that could have been a whole 10-minute scene unto itself, where he gets on a bus to dusty Costa Rica, which is what I did. So what we tried to do was show that healing montage in a way that he definitely left the urban center of Toronto and went somewhere. Doesn't matter where, but Joshua Tree is where he goes. That wasn't really in the movie early cut, so my family helped shape that. They're the ones who are like,
Wow, okay.
I love the journey and I love everything and I get it, but like, how does he heal himself? Like, I didn't earn it, I guess. And so we ended up having to do a pickup shoot. To shoot him at the fire. That whole thing was done 2 months later. Yeah. And that was my family's input. They were my first test audience,
Okay, brilliant.
Yeah.
I mean that whole scene with the fire, yeah, I mean that's that I didn't know that, so that's really amazing to hear. So it's nice that you get those critics from, the biggest ones are your people that are around you. And like I was saying, obviously how it's impacted me. I mean, how else do you hope that audiences feel or reflect on when they see this film? And what are your hopes for people that view this?
The hope is really simple, man, is that people learn that, that what makes them different is what makes them and makes their strengths, So an easy example would be dyslexia, which I don't have, but if you have dyslexia, chances are you sharpen yourself in other ways, An extreme case would be this: if you lost like your sight or something like that, your hearing would increase, But the idea that certainly from childhood, at least I felt this way, that the ways that you're different are not celebrated. They're kind of they make you feel bad about it, or even if they don't intend to. I'm talking parents, teachers, friends, siblings, right? My analogy is when you're young, if you're different, that's like a stigma that goes with you your whole life. Why am I different? What's wrong with me? That feeling of unworthiness that carries with us from childhood. Is that people embrace their differences. They embrace what makes them unique is what makes them great.
Yeah.
And that's what our character's journey goes through. And I certainly believe in it. And I think celebrating, if you want to go really meta on it, celebrating our own deficiencies, in quotations. If we come to the realization as an individual, like our character does, that what makes me different makes me great, then I can say, well, if that's true of me, it must be true of you. What makes you different is something we should celebrate because it makes you, you. And all of a sudden, at a human to human level, I can relate to you more, or maybe tolerance goes up, stuff like that, And we live in a world of visibility, right? We live in a world of everyone's, social media feed is their highlight reel. And as we know, that's not life. We're all trying to make it through the day, aren't we? So I think that the takeaway, I'd love people to feel like, hey, you know what? The thing that makes me different or weird or quirky, it makes me who I am. and that should be celebrated. And I think that we get in our own way sometimes of not doing that. And I think it's something we all want. Back to what I said earlier, we all want to be seen for who we really are. Who doesn't, you know? And so sometimes it starts with us seeing who we really are. You know, these are the sort of emotional questions that the movie is trying to ask of the audience, you know?
Yeah, I think that's I couldn't have said it better myself. I think that's what I took away from this was I've got dyslexia, you know, and people watch this that have got OCD or anxiety or like Charlie said, anxiety. It's I feel like that the way it connects with you is what makes this film so special. And like I said to you before and on today, it's such a powerful film that I couldn't stop thinking about the first time I watched it because of how much I feel like it resonated with me. And I'm not even a musician, but I feel like you said earlier on in this, I feel like that's what makes this film just really, really special is the fact that you don't need to be a musician. It could be whether you're what me and Charlie do, whether we talk about film online or whether you're playing football or whatever it may be. If you've got that thing that makes you feel like you, I feel like that's what's really important in life.
Absolutely. And that there's space in the world for you, in quotations, you know, you, Charlie, you know, you, me, that what we are worthy of having our voice heard, you know, and there's nothing wrong with us, you know, and that stuff. And it's funny. I don't know whether it's just a space and time of the world or Trump or politics or social media. I don't know what it is, man, but something about this message seems to be the right thing at the right time, which I had no idea when you make it. But there's a lot of people that are overwhelmed with just the state of the world, and to bring it down to something small and human seems to really be a refreshing, you know, narrative. And it feels so great to have people resonate with it, like yourselves, other people as well, where it's like, just to bring it down to the basics, you know, just, you know, who we are as people, as human beings.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know what you want to say about it, Charlie, but yeah, this was a phenomenal film.
No, I mean, for me, I haven't been a musician, but for a good 16 years of my life, I have been a dancer. And when I was younger, it was always like almost laughed at. You'd see everyone, the cliche thing, everyone plays their sports, their football, kind of stuff. You don't really see dancers of the younger years, so I'd often hide it away. Wouldn't want to perform similarly to how Jason doesn't want to perform to an audience at certain points. So I think that was a way in which I could again resonate with it, not just with anxiety. And seeing that displayed in this was beautiful to watch. But I think I echo everything that Craig has said. It's a phenomenal film, and as you said, it's come out at exactly the right time.
Thank you for that. And you know, it comes down to we're really mending what I call adult child issues, you know, but unfortunately the school system is not set up for people like you or people like me. You should play sports and fit into this box and get straight A's, and that's what, you know, if you don't do that, why are you different than everybody else? Or there was a TED talk that I'll badly quote where there was a kid who, maybe this was you, Charlie, who couldn't sit still in class, and the teacher, you're distracting everybody. Why can't you sit still? Why can't you be like everybody else? Right? Turned out to be he turned out to be a world-class dancer. You know, he needed to move. He's kinetic. That's his language. That's how he communicates himself to the world. But that was different than everybody else, and it wasn't welcomed. And I'm sure, you know, that the analogy that I use is those messages at that age get pressed into the wet cement of the soul of somebody. And then it hardens as you get older and you take that message with you. Why can't you be like everybody else? Why can't you just sit still? Whatever that is, right? And now we get to chip away at that. And that's what this movie's trying to do, is chip away at the idea that that message that's somehow hardened in your cement, your soul, is not true or right or correct in any way. It was given to you by someone else. You're born perfect. Children are all born perfect, right? Those messages are someone else's voice pushed into you. You know, that's how I truly believe it. And so, you know, doing the work to get past that as you get older is a hard journey, but I think it's one of the most worthwhile journeys an individual can go on, is to try to realize who you really are and then accept it and let the world see it, you know? And that's where we're going for. And that's the hope. And that's the reason why I want to see the movie get as much attention as it can, is so we can have this conversation. It's less about me. It's more about the fact that I believe in this message. And I think that it's and maybe it's the right thing at the right time. Who knows?
Yeah, and I hope it does get more recognition than it already has. I really, really do. And we're here for discussion of this film, but I know we went on a bit of a tangent, but I feel like the messages in this film, or what we've discussed in this episode, are so important, and I hope people are able to be more comfortable with themselves and talk about things more. And I hope that film does that for the people. So, I mean, thank you for giving us this. That's all. Thank you.
You're welcome. I appreciate the kind words, and this is why we go to movies. This is why, as AI comes to take over, and it will, the things that it will never do. Will it make movies? Probably. Will they be good? Probably not. But the idea of storytelling is as old as time. It's never going away. Communal experience, hopefully, movie theaters, live sports, going to a football game, going to the pub. These are the things that make us us. The AI can never change that. And I think the reason we go to the movies is to feel transformed into whether it's a horror movie or it doesn't matter, whatever your thing is. But that's what got me into, back to the idea of being a director. This movie was 2 years of my life I spent making this movie. So it wasn't on a whim. So I'd love to see it get the exposure that it deserves. Hopefully, because these conversations then start to really become, they have more of a voice, which is my hope.
Yeah, I fully agree. I mean, is there anything else you'd like to sort of add, Charlie, to this?
I think we've covered everything. I don't want to
stand
up on any of these points.
I want to say thank you to both you guys for having me, but also just for your insight and your resonance with the movie. It means a lot. That's what I was hoping for. So I do appreciate you both.
Thank you.
We're really grateful to have you on this episode. Talk about Butterfly on a Wheel. So I'm just losing my words because I'm just having all these thoughts in my head. But we are really, really grateful that you're able to come on and talk about this. Super grateful that you've given us this opportunity to watch this film again and discuss it on this episode. All I can say is I firstly wish you huge amounts of good luck for Academy season and award season.
Absolutely.
I really, really do hope that this film gets more recognition. People go and see it. If you're watching this and you haven't seen it, I implore you that you need to keep a lookout for this film, because it's all I can say is it's phenomenal. It's brilliant, and it's going to resonate you. You don't need to be into music. You don't need to have OCD or anything like that. If you've got something that's, whether it's dyslexia or anxiety, this film will resonate with you. And I feel like that's such an important message. I'm going off on a tangent, but firstly and finally, thank you, Trevor Morris, for coming on and speaking to us. We're so appreciative and coming on to one of our episodes to talk about this film.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me. I enjoyed being here.
Thank you. We'll wrap this up. But this is obviously the final episode of 2025. The next episode we'll be bringing out, obviously, will be, I think it'll be the week of the 5th now. So make sure to give this one a listen. We come out every Wednesday at 6 o'clock. And we'll see you next year. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Absolutely.